Welcome back to Ecosystem Project Demo Series. This is episode 13, brought to you by Ethereum Cat Herders. I'm your host, Pooja Rantan, and we are thrilled to have you with us today as we explore one of the most popular tools in the blockchain ecosystem, Web3.js. Whether you are a seasoned developer or just beginning your journey into the decentralized application world, Web3.js is a key library that connects your application to the Ethereum blockchain. It is a widely used JavaScript library that makes interacting with Ethereum network seamless. To provide technical insight on the project and perhaps share a working demo, we are joined by a special guest, Santiago Zuluaga, who is a DevRel at ChainSafe for Web3.js project. Welcome to the show, Santiago.
Thank you so much, Pooja, for the invitation today. I'm really excited to be here and share all the knowledge that I have from Web3.js.
Of course. For people who are new, I hope they would learn a lot about Web3.js, what exactly is Web3.js, how it interacts with the local or remote Ethereum node, and how this can power their application to send transaction, interact with smart contracts, so on and so forth. But before we get there, if you are open to sharing a little bit about yourself, your professional background, the journey within the Ethereum system, I suppose our community would love to hear that.
Okay, I will say that I have a really particular journey in the Ethereum ecosystem. I started literally like 2.5 years ago, learning a little bit about Ethereum, mainly from the infrastructure part, like how everything works, what is a node, what is a decentralized network. And then one time that I fell into a scam of a game, kind of a rug pull, then I was like, okay, I want to learn more about smart contracts, and that's how the spark came in. And then I started learning a little bit about Solidity. It was a lot of discipline in my journey because I learned with YouTube videos, YouTube courses, and when you do this self-learning, it just takes a lot of discipline. It's cheap, it's free, but it just takes a while. You need to have like a really good habits to do that. And then that's how I started first learning JavaScript, because I was doing the research, and then I know that if you want to get it as a Web3 developer in this ecosystem, first you need to start kind of with JavaScript because it's just harder to jump directly into Solidity. Then that's how I learned JavaScript. And then after I learned JavaScript, I did some courses to learn Solidity. And then I got my first job, actually, was thanks to LinkedIn. So I remember that because the hardest thing is to get the first job, right? We were mentioning that in the Octane call. And then my first job was reaching out to someone on LinkedIn who was looking for a blockchain developer. I told him like, hey, I can work for free a couple of months so I can get some experience. And yeah, then they give me, let's call it like the unpaid internship. Then I did a couple of things with the smart contract, like a launchpad of ERC20, ERC721. And then after that, I got my first real job as a DevRel, that it was with Swisstronic, like a layer 1 blockchain. And then after Swisstronic last year, I got into Web3.js. And yeah, then I've been here for a while, for almost a year now. Really happy to be here with Web3.js, which is like a really important tool in the ecosystem.
Very interesting journey, beginning from the scratch and getting onto the team finally, and kind of leading the team right now as DevRel is commendable. Appreciate sharing that. And I believe we have got a presentation and a demo. But before we get there, let me invite my co-host, ZK Doof, who is here with us today and maybe asking some good questions with you at the end of the day. ZK, if you would like to maybe take a minute and say hello.
Hey, everyone. I'll definitely be asking a lot of questions. But yeah, I'd love to see the demo first.
Very well. Well, as we know, we are here with a demonstration and a presentation. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Okay, so hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks for coming today, for watching this video for the ecosystem project demo. So today we have Web3.js, and I'm Santiago, the developer relations at Web3.js. What I'm going to cover today is first, just in a high level, explain what Web3.js is. Then I'm going to do the demo of getting started with Web3.js. I'm going to show you step by step how to install the library, how to interact, how to send a transaction, how to interact with a contract, etc. I'm going to showcase a demo of one of the Web3 plugin contracts, which is a really useful plugin that you can use to interact with any verified contracts in any EVM network. And also you can understand the concept of Web3 plugins that we have right now. And at the end, I can share some things of community outreach. Oh, I noticed that this should be a 4, but that's fine. And do community outreach at the end. So let's start with what's Web3.js. So Web3.js is one of the oldest public goods of Ethereum, with the first commit made in September 30 of 2014. Actually, the only public good that is older than Ethereum is Solidity. So yeah, that's like a pretty interesting fact that I found. And it can show like the reliability of the library. Some of the usage that we have right now is in NPM. We have around 2 million of downloads a month for the whole Web3 library. But then the Web3 library has different packages that can be installed separately. And then the Web3 utils, which is one of these packages, has around 4 million of downloads a month. Then the CDN request has around 9 million of hits a month as well. So that's showing like a lot of usage from the library. And also we have more than 6,000 dependencies on the Web3.js library, which is a good number. So Web3.js is basically an abstraction over the Ethereum JSON RPC API to interact with any EVM library, with any EVM network. So in this case, if you want to get the balance of, or get the block number of a specific wallet, what you need to do is to send this JSON RPC call. But as a developer, you don't really want to send these manual things. And then with Web3.js, if you know JavaScript, this is the only thing that you need to do. First, to import the Web3 library. Then after that, you can initialize the RPC endpoint. In this case, is talking to the Ethereum mainnet when we don't send any string in these parentheses. And then you are ready to use the library. So in this case, just web3.eth.get block number. And that's the main core of what Web3.js is, just an abstraction over all these JSON RPC calls that you can use with JavaScript or TypeScript as well. This is kind of a dApp flow for you to understand where is Web3.js in the whole dApp. So you have like the dApp, let's say a React app or the Uniswap or whatever. Then Web3.js is used in this app, and then Web3.js will connect to an RPC endpoint. This RPC endpoint can be QuickNode, Infura, Alchemy, or any other, chainlist.org. You can get some public ones as well. And then the RPC endpoint will talk to the blockchain, and then they will execute, the nodes will execute the transaction, or they will return the value of the call. And yeah, this is like where the Web3.js is in this whole picture. This is the modular design of the Web3.js library. So when you install the Web3 library, you will install basically all these packages at the same time. But then if you don't need all the packages, so you can directly install npm install Web3 ETH contract, npm install Web3 utils. Or yeah, what I normally do is just installing npm install Web3, and then it's just kind of easy to explain package by package when you install the whole library. And then we also have the plugin base, which is like a new feature that we introduced. Yeah, I will explain more details about that later. Okay, now let's go into the fun part. That's a little intro now. So getting started with Web3.js. So this is what I'm going to cover today. We are going to fetch some data from the blockchain. Then we are going to see a couple of utility functions, accounts and wallets. We are also going to send transactions, then to interact with contracts, reading functions and writing functions. And then you will see also the event subscriptions. Everything is here linked to the slides. So you can also click in the slides. Okay, so the first thing that I will actually do now is to create a node project here. So I will call it EPD, CD EPD. Perfect. And then here, I'm just going to create a node project. And then let me just open this in the code editor. So now that we have this code editor, we can install the Web3.js library just by running npm I or install Web3. And then you will see that Web3 will come here in the dependencies. Few seconds. Perfect. So now we have the dependencies here, Web3 version 4.11. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create, let's see what is the next slide. Getting started. Perfect. So this getting started, the first thing that we need to do is to import the library. So let me just create like a index.mjs. So import Web3. So you just need to type import Web3 between curly braces. That's something really important, because when you wanted to import the Web3.js version 1, you didn't need to put the curly braces, but for version 4, you need to put the curly braces from Web3, and then this is how you import the Web3 library. Then after that, we need to initialize an RPC endpoint. This RPC endpoint is the one that will help us to interact with any EVM blockchain. So we don't need to type const Web3 new Web3. And then here, we need to send the string of the, just zoom in a little bit. Yeah. Then we just need to send the string of the RPC endpoint that we want to interact. If I don't send any RPC endpoint, then by default, it will be Ethereum mainnet. And then we can start using Web3.js. So in this case, I'm just going to create a sync function. And then we can just retrieve the latest block number. So for example, using this, now we can start using this web3.it.get block number. You can see all the different methods that we have here, but then we're going to just use this one. Then this will return the latest block number that we are storing in this variable, the response. And then we can just print this response here. And then let's just put latest block number is. And then let's see the results. So now I can come here to my console, then run node.index.njs. And then we can see the latest block number is this number here. And now let me show you if I change the RPC endpoint to another one, for example, base. Oh, Arbitrum is fine as well. So if I change this for Arbitrum, I initialize my RPC endpoint with the Arbitrum endpoint, then this will return a completely different number because now it's interacting with Arbitrum. And then the same if I interact with any other networks. Let's say this one with Binance. And yeah, and now it returns the latest block number for Binance, Arbitrum, and Ethereum. And then you can just basically do the same, interact with any EVM network just by changing the RPC endpoint. So this is like a really important concept to understand when you are getting started, that to interact with the EVM network is just changing this link here. Perfect. So that was the first slide of getting started. Then fetching data from the blockchain. So as you can see, we need to use the web3.it module, and then we can fetch any type of data. So in this case, we already fetched the get block number, but then we can also use, let's say, get balance. And then we can get the balance of a given account. If you see here, we need to send an address. So let me just send, for example, this address that I have here. Yeah, this is test CK sync. This is not real it, so we don't get excited. So if I send my address here, for example, and then I can change here is balance is. Okay, what happened is that right now we are interacting with Binance. So if I send this, my balance in Binance is 0, right? But then if we interact, for example, with Sepolia, because in Sepolia I have some ETH, we will see that we will get a different result for the balance. So let me just get like a RPC endpoint for Sepolia. Can get this. So now if I change this, instead of interacting with Binance, now interacting with Sepolia, and then rerun this, you can see that my balance in Sepolia testnet is this huge number here for 110 ETH. And yeah, then this is how we can fetch data from the blockchain. And then you can also check other like get block or calculate fee data, etc. I also put the link here to the documentation, so you're able to see a lot of the different methods that we have to fetch data. So here, get block, get balance, get accounts, get chain ID, get code, get Coinbase, etc. And it's just literally by changing this method that you are calling here and just making sure that if it's receiving any parameters, you need to put it here as well. So yeah, that's the first slide of fetching data from the blockchain. Now the utility functions. So the utility functions, which is actually the most popular package of Web3.js, will help you to interact with different things in the network. One that is really useful is just to do the conversion from Way to ETH or from Way to GWay or any other Ether units. Yeah. What you can do to use this is that we can use the Web3 instead of .it, then we need to type .utils. That will be everything. So for example, to Way. And then what we can put is, okay, I want to have 1 ETH to Way. So then I just need to specify here the unit that I want, the unit that I'm sending, and here how much I'm sending of this. The result will be in Way. So if we check 1 Ether is in Way. And then we will see the response here as well. For this, we don't need the RPC endpoint because this is the utils package is not interacting directly with any blockchain. So yeah, this is not needed. And then if we run this, we will get 1 ether is this number in weight, right? And then it will be the same. If I just put 2 here, then it will just change to 2, etc. Another way that you can do to use the Web3 util package is that instead of importing the whole Web3 library, you can directly import the Web3 utils. But then you will need to, like that, you just need to remove this Web3, and then you can directly start interacting with the utils package as well. And then you can kind of skip this step of initializing the RPC endpoint because it's not needed. Or also, instead of installing npm install web3, then you can just do npm install web3/utils, and then you will just install that package. So yeah, that's the first thing. Just remove this. So that's the utility functions. I also have here the link to the utility package that we have, and then you will see all the different functions that we have. This is one of the biggest packages because we have a lot of conversions, a lot of like parsing from ASCII to hex or from UTF to hex. You can do different things to generate hex to number, generate random bytes. You can also double check if an address is valid with this method, for example. And yeah, it's basically just doing the same, just checking what is the method that you need to do. And yeah, then you will find more than 30 functions here, like 50. So that's the utility package. Okay, now this starts to get better now when we talk about accounts and wallets. So the structure that we have in Web3.js is that we have like 2 keywords that I really like to explain that with this graphic. A wallet and then the accounts. The accounts only contains an address and a private key, right? That's why the account 1 contains address and private key, account 2 as well, and then 2 methods, that is to sign data and sign transaction. But then the wallet will contain as many accounts as you want. So that's why this is really important to know. And then what you can do in a wallet is just to add or remove accounts. But you need to initialize a wallet to be able to interact with contracts using Web3.js. So that's why it's really important to introduce this part. So now let me show you how we can initialize a wallet. So let me just, now that we are interacting with Sepolia, let's just put here the endpoint to Sepolia. Sepolia. Perfect. So the first thing we need to do is initialize a wallet using a private key. That's one way. I'm going to also show you a different way. And then to initialize this wallet, we need to use the method web3.it.wallet. Let me import this. .wallet.add. And then here we can send a private key. So let me just take one of the private keys from another account. Maybe from this one. Account details. That's fine if you show this because I will not use this account later, so it's fine. And then I'm just copy pasting the private key from here to here. But something important is that this private key needs to start with a 0x here. And then if I console log this wallet, let's see what it shows. So you're able to grasp the concept of this. So as you can see here in the console, then we have a wallet which contains only 1 account. That's why we have this one here. And then this account is here. We can see the address here, the private key here, and then the methods that we have, sign transaction, sign. But then if I want to add another account, I can just do the same here. Let's put this like that, 0x, and then I can just add another private key here, and then I will have a wallet with 2 accounts. But in most of the cases, we just need 1 account to sign transactions, so I will just use 1. So yeah, that's how we kind of use a wallet. Something really important is, what if I don't want to use a private key to initialize a wallet and to interact with Web3.js? And in a front end, like you don't input your private key, right? So what you need to do instead is when you have a front end, instead of initializing this with the RPC endpoint, you just initialize it in this way, window.ethereum. So this is something really important instead of putting this string here, just put window.ethereum. And then Web3.js is kind of connecting to the injected provider that can be the wallet that is under the hood. And then if you want to retrieve the accounts that is there, you need to use these methods. That is web3.it request accounts. And then you need to connect a button to this method. And then what happens is that when you are calling this method, MetaMask pop-up is showing, and then it will ask you to connect your wallet. But then you never need a private key. So those are the two different ways to initialize the wallet, with a private key that I'm using here, and then these two simple lines that you will need in your React application, for example. So yeah, let's continue with this. Now we initialize the wallet. And then we can access, oh yeah, if I want to access, for example, to the address of one of my accounts, so I can just type wallet.0 because the account is in the index 0 of this array, .address. And then you will see the address of the account that we are using right now. Perfect. So that's how we initialize the wallet. Something important is to make any call, any type of calls fetching data, you don't need to initialize a wallet. That's really important because you are not sending transactions. You don't need any funds. So that's why you don't need to initialize the wallet. But then when you want to send transactions or maybe interact with the smart contracts, then you need to initialize the wallet to perform transactions. So yeah, I put that slide here, which is useful as well. So now let's send our first transaction with Web3.js. So this gets a little bit more exciting. So what we need to do is to create a transaction object. So I will call it TX. And then the transaction object can have a lot of different things, like the from, the to. The from is the address that we are sending the transaction from. Then the to will be the destination address. Then you can also have a lot of other parameters, like let's say value. You can also have data, nonce, also the max priority fee, etc. But if you don't fill out those things, Web3.js will actually, under the hood, estimate the rest of the values. So you don't need to worry about those other values of the nonce, etc., to input that manually. So what we are going to do is to send a transaction from this wallet that I initialize, wallet.0.address. So basically here I'm inputting this. But I can also put this address, which is the same here. It's really important that this address must match the address that I just connected with the private key. Otherwise, Web3.js will not be able to sign the transaction with this address. Then to, maybe let's put one of the address that I have here with 0 ETH. So I'm sending this from ETH Oxford, which has 3 ETH, maybe to account number 1, which has 0 ETH. So let's send this. And then for the value, let's actually send 3 ETH. Let's actually send like almost everything. So we can use the utils, web3.utils.two-way. And then I can send 3.ether. Or we can also input, like, for example, this like that. But yeah, we'll need to count 18 zeros, and that's just too complicated. So let's just use the utils. And then now we have the transactions. So what we can do to send the transaction, we can use this method that is called web3.it.sendTransaction. So Web3.js will take this transaction, we'll sign it under the hood, and then we'll send the transaction to the network. So we just send this transaction object that we have here. Then this is an await here. And this will return the receipt of the transaction. So I will just print the receipt here. Normally, you don't really need the receipt. And what you do is just do the transaction hash. So you will get this transaction hash like that, which is like the most important thing. And now let's send this. Let's see if this works. We have Sepolia. Perfect. So now we are going to send 3 ETH from this ETH Oxford account, which has 3 ETH, to this account number 1, which has 0 ETH. So let's run node index. We can wait a bit. I will also open the Sepolia Ether scan. Okay, now we got the transaction hash here. So what I'm going to do is to check this transaction hash in the Sepolia Ether scan. And then you will see that we have here from this address to this address, and we just sent 3 ETH. And then if we check my MetaMask, we have account number 1 with 3 ETH, and then ETH Oxford with 0 ETH. So we just send a transaction, and basically sending the transaction is just as simple as this. You add your wallet, you put the transaction that you want to add, and then you just send the transaction. And yeah, that's simple, not super hard. So that's how we send transactions. how we can interact with the smart contracts. So this is also something really important. So I'm going to interact in this case with the USDC token in the mainnet. I'm going to make a call, so I'm not going to interact with the transaction. Like I'm not going to send a transaction or something. So the first thing that we need to use is the ABI. We need to import the ABI. So this ABI will be like this. Export default ABI. The ABI is just like interface that we always need to use in any library with the smart contracts to tell like Web3.js, this is the way that you can interact with this smart contract using this ABI. So every smart contract will have a different ABI that you will always need to initialize for initializing a contract. Okay, so we already have the wallet here working. So the next thing that we need to do is to initialize the contract. To initialize the contract, we need to store that in, let's say, this USDC variable. And then we can use web3.eth.contract. And then we need to pass the ABI that I just imported here, and then the address of the smart contract. So in this case, the address of the smart contract is this one. I'm going to put it here so we can interact with the USDC. And then we are ready to interact with the contract. So to interact with the contract, we need to type USDC, which is the name of the variable here, .methods. And then after the methods, you can put the method that you want to call. In this case, I'm going to call the name and then .call, because we need to specify that it's a call. Then we can just store this in this response variable, and then let's just print this in the console, name, response. And then I'm going to do the same, but let's get, for example, the decimals. So instead of the name, I'm going to put, or maybe total supply. And then I just change the total supply, and now I'm going to call the total supply function there. Now let's change this. Let's change this because we are interacting with the token in Ethereum mainnet. So we need to change the RPC endpoint. So just to kind of summarize the code, first I just initialize the wallet. Oh, in this case, it's actually not necessary because we are interacting directly. We are just making a call. And now I'm just going to run this. I just delete this. Okay, add a node index. And then if you see, we just got like the response, the name is USD coin, and then the total supply is this number that you see here. So that's how you interact with the smart contracts in Ethereum, at least for reading calls. Reading calls only returns a value. But then if you want to interact, for example, with writing functions, a writing function is when you send a transaction. So let me just show you really quick the difference of these two. When you come to contract in the eTrScan, you have this read contract, which are the reading functions. And then you also have the write contract, which are the functions that you need to interact with transactions. So what you need to do, the only difference is that instead of putting call here, you need to put .send. And then you need to specify from here which address is sending the transaction. So in this case will be this wallet that I initialized previously, but that's basically the main difference. Instead of call, you put .send, and that's everything. Then that's how you interact with the smart contracts, which is really useful. And then the event subscription, if you want to also subscribe to events, which is really useful. So for USDC, for example, we are going to get maybe the transfer events. So the first thing that you need to do is to change the RPC endpoint to a WebSocket. Because when you have a HTTP provider only accepts requests one time. So you kind of make the call, they return a value, and the connection is closed. But then with WebSocket, it kind of is a back and forth connection. So it just leaves like open. So you are able to listen to different events. So now I just initialize that with a WebSocket. Then I initialize the contract here and then interact with the events. What we need to do is instead of methods here, we need to put events. So we can put events and then the event name that in this case can be, maybe let's see if transfer. I think transfer will be an event. And then what you can do is this will be the subscription. And then we can get this subscription on. We just copy paste this. Then we can just get subscription on. And then this will console log the data that we are getting from this subscription. So if I run this, didn't save this. Let me just put a console log. Listening. Perfect. Now it's listening, and then it's listening to the events transfer of the USDC contract. So every 12 seconds that a new block is generated, will return all the events related to USDC transfers. So yeah, as you can see, we are getting all the events here every 12 seconds. And then if you want to subscribe to a different event, you just need to change this transfer for something else like deposit, and then it will return all the deposit events as well. So that's how we subscribe to events. Basically, that's the main things for Web3.js. Then I'm going to give like a short overview of these Web3 plugin contracts, which is really useful. So now you just saw that to interact with any contract, we need to use two things, an ABI and an address. But then if we use these Web3 plugin contracts, we don't need this ABI anymore, which is really important. This plugin actually came out of a hackathon from Learn Web3, and it was really useful because the plugin is connecting to all the block explorers under the hood, and then it's retrieving all the different data. But this only works with verified contracts. So this will not work with not verified contracts, which are not really reliable. So what we need to do to use this plugin is we just need to install the plugin itself. So let me just create something here like a plugin.mjs. So I will give you the demo of the plugin. First, I need to import the plugin. To install the plugin, npm install web3-plugin-contracts. Then I'm going to import web3 from web3. And then I can also import the plugin contract plugin from web3-plugin-contracts. And then we need to initialize the RPC, and we also need to register the plugin. So to initialize the RPC is the same thing. New Web3, then this is Ethereum mainnet. And then to register the plugin, we need to type web3.register plugin, and then just create a new instance of the plugin, which is contract plugin here. And now the plugin is ready to use just by typing this. And now let's use the plugin. I'm going to interact with the USDT address again with USDT token here. So this is the address of the USDT in mainnet. And then now you can see that to initialize the contract, you don't need to look for the ABI anymore. So this thing that I copy paste before to be able to initialize the contract here, now we don't need it anymore. So let's just put like a comment here before and after. So let's say const ERC20, and it will be something like this: new web3.eth.contract ABI, and then USDT address. Yeah, so basically this is the before. We have this ABI here. In this case, I didn't import the ABI. And then after using the plugin, we just type web3.contract plugin, which is the name of the plugin. And then the word contract, we just pass the address as a parameter, and then we are ready to interact with the USDT contract. So for example, let's call the same thing that we're calling before. We just put this into an async function. Let's get the name and the decimals of the USDT. So let's put it here, ERC20 dot name. Wait, ERC20 dot methods dot name dot call. Then let's just put this in the response here. And then let's console log name. Perfect. And then we can get maybe the decimals as well, just by changing this name for decimals. Changing this here. Okay, and now if I run this, hopefully it would work. I didn't call the function. Invalid API key. So let's see now what happened here. Oh, okay, now I think I know what happened. Sometimes this plugin is asking for a API, but that's too complicated. Maybe, let me see if we can skip this part. Let me make it work. So it's nice. So yeah, in this case, we got this error that is missing or invalid API key. So what we need to do is to send an API here, API key from Etherscan. So the plugin is actually able to interact with our API keys from Etherscan. So I can go to etherscan.io, API keys here, and then I guess I have the API key here. Maybe it's this one. Yeah. And then to initialize the plugin, I can put my API key here. And then now everything is working here. Oh yeah, we got this. Why this is returning this weird things here? Let me see. Check the slides. Web3 contract plugin. Method's name. Yeah. Let me just print this. ERC20. Actually, what we are getting from the whole ERC20 plugin. So let's run this. This is like a huge thing because it's returning everything. Oh, I think now I know what I missed. But yeah, this is basically the whole contract with all the different things, all the different functions that you have. So that's why it's kind of fetching all the different methods. Oh, now I know what was the issue. I missed like a parenthesis here. But yeah, this is everything that we are getting from iterScan, all the different methods, events. So as you can see, we have all the methods here of the USDT contract. Yeah, if I just uncomment this and then I put the parenthesis here because we are calling a method, that's why it was getting an error. And actually, I'm sure that I can even remove this API key. This was asking for the API key because when you ask for a lot of data at the same time to iterScan, it will require the API key. But when you are only interacting with one method here, that will not be really like an issue. So let's see. Worst case, I will just put it again. Node plugin. Oh yeah, let's put it. Now let's see. Oh yeah, so now we have here. Oh, that's fine. Now we have here the name, Tether USD, and then the decimals 6N. Yeah, when we try to console log the whole ERC20 contract, it will try to get like a lot of information from iterScan. So that's why let's just remove that. Let me just try again without my API key. And let's see if I get the error. Oh yeah. Okay, so now I notice that you always need to input here the API key from iterScan, so you will be able to interact with iterScan. And yeah, that was basically the main thing of the Web3 plugin. And then just like to close the presentation for today, I wanted to give like a quick overview of the community that we have right now. That was like basically all the tech things, all the coding part. From the education and the community outreach, we have more than 200 ambassador applications to be part of the ambassador program. Currently, we have more than 20 active ambassadors from Spain, Germany, Norway, some from South America, a really active community in Africa and India as well, which is amazing. So we have here, for example, Kodjo. Kodjo is from Togo. He's an amazing guy. He is actually improving his English right now. So we have some translator. We use a lot of translator when we talk to each other, but he was already able to deliver his first talk about Web3.js in French in Togo. So I'm really proud of Kodjo. You can see here, he was really happy. Here in this case, she's Mari. She's helping me a lot with what I'm doing right now for the Web3.js Africa in Ghana. And we are having some coffee chats with the ambassador every Saturday. So here is one of the screenshots. If you want to join the ambassador programs to be part of the community, here is the QR code as well. We are having the weekly calls every Saturday. We are also having a lot of different things. All the benefits from the ambassador program are in this QR code. You can just go to the Google form and then you will find everything. Kodjo, the guy from Togo, speaking in Togo, which was great. And then for the education as well, in this year, we have been like speaking in more than 12 countries, given more than 8 workshops, and produced more than 20 hours of video content tutorials, and if I'm not mistaken, more than 10 articles as well. Like the ambassadors are being really active. This workshop online that we did, this was at ETCC in Belgium, this was at ETH Tallinn a few months ago, this was ETH Zurich, this was ETH Oxford, and this was ETH Denver, some photos of everything. And then what is coming in the next month will be the Web3.js Africa tour. So we will be in Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya. We are going to deliver more than 10 hands-on workshops in 3 universities. We will reach more than 500 developers and we will give 3 bounties. Actually, I'm really happy with this. Let me tell you a little story of the bounties. Basically, in the beginning, we only have around 3K of budget to give in bounties. And then once we published this in the Twitter, and then some people started to retweet, and also some of the contacts reach out to me like, hey, what is this Africa tour that you're doing? And now we got $11,000 in bounties just from grants like from support from CK Sync, Swisstronic, Aura AI, and Flick. So yeah, these 4 projects just give out more money to giving bounties, which is amazing. So we have more bounties for the African developers. I always like to close the presentation with this. Web3.js is not a library, it's a community, which is growing a lot now. And yeah, that's basically everything from my side. Thank you so much. Now, really happy to answer any question.
Amazing presentation. Thank you so much for this. I mean, you talked about features, functionalities, and best practices. And I love that you also made important notes where, developers may need some kind of help. I suppose this recording that we are making today will help many people to build their next project, as Web3.js is like
Amazing.
dev-friendly library. Yeah, I hope so. I think we have got a few questions lined up for you. My first question is with respect to other toolings available. What are the key considerations when deciding between using Web3.js or other similar libraries like Ether.js for a blockchain project?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the main ones are like Web3.js, Ethers, and VM. Maybe there's even a couple of more, but at least for JavaScript, there's only these 3. There's only like Web3.py, which is for Python, but that's like a different thing. Honestly, I always get these questions a lot, and I only have 2 points of view. So the first point that I always say is that is based on your preferences. Like I will not tell you should use Web3.js because of this or that. At the end of the day, what we are trying to do is just to build more tools for the ecosystem. So it's not that we are rivals or competitors. It's just that we are just trying to provide more for the ecosystem. So it's just based on preferences. Some people like more the documentation of this library, or some people like more. I even hear a feedback in ETCC that someone, I forgot, from Neon VM project, they told me like, I love the way that I can filter events in Web3.js. That's why I love Web3.js. So it's just like about preferences, to be honest. But then the only thing that maybe I will show off, like to answer this question, to brag a little bit, will be the Web3 plugins. These Web3 plugins are like giving you the ability to create any SDK for you to interact with any project. So in this case, I showcase the Web3 plugin for the contracts, but we have also a lot of different plugins, like for interacting with Chainlink, to interacting with Optimism, with Uniswap, with CK Sync. And these are just plugins, like SDKs that allows you to interact directly with a project without needing to learn the whole project from scratch. Like you can interact directly with CK Sync using JavaScript without needing to know everything about CK Sync. So this is like another way to abstract more things for the developers. So that's like the only really, let's say, added value that we have is this Web3 plugins that is part of the library itself. But then besides that, it's just honestly preferences.
Of course, that is pretty interesting. I mean, all these libraries are to support developers' development, and based on preferences and tools available, they can perhaps make the right decision. My next question for you is about the future of Web3.js. We know that the landscape of Ethereum blockchain keep on changing. How do you see Web3.js adapting to support future upgrades and also the layer 2 solutions those are upcoming?
Oh, that's a really good question, because to be honest, it's really hard to adapt a library to every little thing that is happening, right? So that's why we came up with this plugin system. And instead of adapting the library to a new change, we can just create a plugin for this new EIP, right? So for example, with the account abstraction, if there are like 10 different standards for account abstraction, it will be impossible to have the 10 standards in the library itself, but it would be really easy to have 10 plugins and each plugin to interact with every standard, right? So that's something that is really focused on the future of Web3.js, and it's just based on the plugins, creating functionalities for whatever that is coming up, trending or in the future. So that's, yeah, this plugin system is always the feature that I kind of show off, because it just solves like a lot of issues in terms of scalability.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And I think my end, my last question here would be, if you have got any ideas or suggestions for adapt developers to look more into Web3.js and leverage that in their project.
Okay, that's a really good question. So that really depends. I will say, to be honest, something that I'm really excited and promoting personally is these plugins, but not to use them, actually to build them, because it's really easy to build. I also have like in ETCC, I have like we can also share that, a workshop. I share how you can build a plugin and then how you can publish this as an NPM package. And this is really exciting because you can create a plugin for any project. if you are interacting with any DEX like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, or whatever, you can create a plugin only for interacting with that project. So you can just choose a project that you really like a lot. You can create a plugin, and now you are delivering like SDK and dev tooling for developers to interact with that plugin. So if I were a developer, that's something that I will do, because I'm just creating tools for the ecosystem. And then if people are using my tool, I will be really proud of that, right? And yeah, then I think I will say like creating a plugin will be the way to go to create like a great impact in the ecosystem.
Of course, I think this suggestion could be adopted in one of the hackathon events, and they can build up some project like that.
You're right. Yeah, actually, now talking about hackathons, I participated in the Italian hackathon, and then I built a plugin for a specific project that was looking for dev tooling. I created a plugin, and then I won the hackathon that time. So this helps you to at least not win, but at least to participate creating any dev tool that you want for any project. So if when you see in a hackathon that they put dev tooling, you can link that to Web3 plugins, and you can create a Web3 plugin for any dev tooling of any Web3 project, literally anything. So that will be really useful for hackathons and bounties or grants.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, ZK, I know you have some questions to go over with.
Yeah. So I guess while we're talking about plugins, we're seeing a lot of, Web3.js abstracting away elements of the blockchain that might be difficult for, people newer into the ecosystem. How do you see plugins helping people who are newer to the ecosystem, like get onboarded in cross-chain or alternative chain or L2 projects?
That's a really good question. What we are doing, okay, now for the L2 parts, for the layer 2s, something that we notice about all the layer 2s is that most of them, they have different RPC methods. So for example, when you interact with Ethereum, which is like the main JSON RPC, has the main JSON RPC, it has always the same things: Ethereum send transaction or get chain ID, etc. But then when you interact with a layer 2 with CK Sync, it has some specific RPC methods from CK Sync. And then when you interact with Optimism, the same. And then when you interact with other ones, and then it just gets crazy. And then having a full library for everything is impossible. But then having plugins for every layer 2 is feasible. So this is something that is really helping the ecosystem. We are actually already targeting and in contact with different layer 2s to abstract these RPC calls for their developers. Actually, for CK Sync, the specific case is really useful, because in CK Sync, besides from the JSON RPC calls, you have different things that are smart contract deployment and paymasters. So the smart contract deployment is to deploy a smart contract in CK Sync is different, and is not in the same way that you deploy a contract in Ethereum or Arbitrum. So with the plugin, we are abstracting this complexity of deploying a contract in CK Sync in an easy way for the developers. And then for the paymasters, is the same thing. For the paymasters, you can build a dApp that allows the final user to pay the fees in any different token, right? And we are also abstracting this into the plugin. So I think the Web3 plugins will help a lot for onboarding developers, because when you are a developer, to learn about paymasters, how I deploy a contract with CK Sync, that would be like too much documentation. But then if this is abstracted into a plugin, it will be way easier to, okay, so I just need to call this function, send these parameters, and now I'm deploying a contract. So I think that would be really useful for the layer 2 kind of a horizon. We'll call it like that.
Yeah, I was looking at your demo and I was like, wow, it really is just plug and play to switch between chains. So that's awesome. So, you talked about all these plugins. Are there some that, are currently being developed that you think maybe people aren't talking about right now, but you want to bring some attention to? I know you talked a lot about the ZK Sync one and kind of abstracting.
Yeah, that's right. I think, right now, like the ZK Sync is the main one that are being developed right now, at least from our side that I know. I'm not sure if something being done with Optimism, but it's not actually what we are trying to promote now. It's actually the usage of the plugins, so we can see dApps using them. So the main thing of the Web3.js Africa tour and the hackathons that we are hosting are actually for dApps using the plugins instead of building more plugins, because at the end of the day, we also don't want to have 1 million plugins, but maybe not the best quality. So it's better to have like lesser plugins, but more quality. So yeah, to answer the question, not really a plugin that is being developed right now, but at any time, because anyone can build a plugin. So at least from our side, from Web3.js Usages, we are not developing any besides from CK Sync. But maybe tomorrow a new developer will come like, hey, I developed this, and then they can publish this in the web3js.org website. because anyone can create that, right? So from our side, no, but anyone can come up with a new plugin any day.
Yeah. Kind of like the positives and negatives of abstracting away so much of like the interaction with the chain is some developers may be worried about the security implications of trusting plugins. And now you have like another element of trust. If you're using something that's third party, you have to verify the plugin. How are you guys working to like ensure compatibility and like help developers make that decision when it comes to security?
That's a really good question. So what happened is that if you visit web3js.org/plugins, you will see all the different plugins that we publish in the website. And then before we publish a plugin in the website, we kind of take a look at the plugin to see that this is not like a dangerous call, dangerous transaction, or whatever. So anyone can create any plugin, but not anyone can publish the plugin in the Web3.js website. And that's kind of when we publish the plugin in the website, it's because, okay, this has been, let's say, kind of verified or at least tested from our site. So if it's there, it's usable, it's safe. Yeah.
Okay. And is it just like kind of a snapshot of a specific version, or at that point, do you just start pulling in updates?
Okay, that's a really good question. What we are doing in the website is that we publish the snapshot of the version, but then you will just go to the npm package to see if they updated something weird. But yeah, in the website, we are just having like a specific version that they publish.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Kind of like a little app store.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we are trying to do, like a little NFT marketplace of plugins.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess to go away from the technical side, just like getting more people into Ethereum, you talked about learning basically everything from videos, not doing anything like any formal studying, because most people here don't. What challenges did you face that you feel like you're now able to help other people who are in that same situation?
Oof. I think the first one is the tutorial hell. Because when you start in this, you don't know where to start, right? So you just start watching this video, 2 hours video, how to build an NFT marketplace. Maybe you watch 1 hour and then you spend 2 days doing that, but then you got stuck and something is not working. And then, okay, what should I do now? Or I want to edit something, but then I don't know because I'm just following this guy and then I'm not able to independently like take over something, right? So I think the tutorial hell is something really important to at least have like a guide of where should I start and what's next, so I don't waste my time going in circles. Then something else can be the imposter syndrome by doing little things, just kind of change your confidence or the way that you see things. For example, the ambassadors that we have right now, we have been talking about that in some coffee chats. I actually 2 weeks ago with Dmitry from Open Zeppelin, she was our guest, and she was talking about that. And most of the ambassadors were telling that, like, I don't have any experience. I haven't had like my first Web3 job. So they feel like I'm not good enough. But then when you, for example, are a Web3.js ambassador, you start to put your videos out there, you start people seeing, liking your videos, getting your good comments. That has like a flip in your confidence and the imposter syndrome just kind of go away. And that's something that I'm really trying to help with the Web3.js ambassador program, just to kind of, it's a mix of learning like the Web3.js, but also like self-development and just kind of help you to get where you want to be. If you want to be like a really good content creator, or if you want to improve more your Web3.js skills or your solidity or whatever, we can focus on something that is kind of aligned with what you want to learn. So yeah, I think those two things are the main that I'm trying to help. At least the people that is connected with me or that message me or whatever, I always like reply to every message. So yeah, but also the ambassadors, we have like a group, and then we also have these calls, and we are just learning a lot together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I loved in your demo, you maybe wrote like 15, 20 lines of code just in different orders, and it showed like all the different things you can do with
different things. Exactly. Yeah, it's simple, right? It's simple at the end of the day. Yeah.
And I think that builds confidence because it's like, I did do something. I did actually interact with that contract. I didn't just watch a YouTube
Now I
video.
know how to send a transaction, right? In these 3 lines of code. So yeah, sometimes it's just, you just get overwhelmed. You just don't know where to start. But then when you watch, for example, this recording, this video, you will be like, oh, okay, I just need to write these 7 lines of code and now I'm sending a transaction. It's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I don't really have too many other questions. Is there anything else you want to say to our community, how people can get involved? Another shout out for the ambassadors.
Yeah, maybe I would really like to mention that I'm really proud of like Web3.js, because Web3.js most of the times it's like a first gateway into Ethereum or Web3 development for any developer. Either if you are like a Web2 or just a beginner, Web3.js can be the first step that can help you. Before you start building, deploying smart contracts, I think you should learn at least basics of Web3.js so you understand some technical concepts that are really useful. Because sometimes people can want just like, oh, I want Solidity, I want to learn Solidity, I want to learn Solidity. But at least you should understand the big picture of the dApp, how everything works, what is in the front end, then what is interacting with the RPC endpoint and things like that. So as an outcome, Web3.js can be the first step into Web3. And that's something that we are really trying to also push with this Africa tour. For example, we are going to 3 universities in Kenya as well to just help developers to do that. That's the same workshop that I did in Oxford a few months ago, helping more people getting into Web3. And actually, I wanted to share a really good story in Oxford. When I was there, I have, I don't know, let's say 50 to 60 students in the audience, but there were like a few groups that were really active asking questions. And then 4 days later, after I gave this workshop, one of the groups that were really active, they came to me saying like, hey, Santiago, I'm really grateful. And thank you so much for everything. Like we never deploy a smart contract or anything. We just get started with your workshop. And we were able to get the second place of this hackathon and we won $3,000. So that was like, wow, that was really fulfilling for me at that time. And yeah, that was like the first step, the smart contract deployment. And I'm still like really good friends of Danilo. He was like the guy from Oxford that won the hackathon. And that was like really rewarding. Like when people come to you and tell you this type of things, like, okay, I'm doing a good job. I'm impacting people, which is something that really gives me like purpose, impacting people.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming. We loved the demo and it was great talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chike and Pooja, for everything.
Today, we explored how Web3.js enables developers to build decentralized applications with ease. We also discussed how Web3.js has been an integral part in creating dApps, also including a live demo. We would encourage community to follow the resources shared in the presentation and link in the description to learn more about the tool and may be able to use them in your project. Web3.js is a public good project participating in Octane Epoch 5. If you are a GLM staker, consider supporting this and many other participating public good projects. On behalf of Ethereum cat herders, I would like to thank Santiago for taking out time and providing this demo to us. Thanks to our dear viewers, subscribers for joining us on this special episode of Ecosystem Project Demo. Remember, you can catch all our past episodes. Just head over to YouTube channel and check out the Ecosystem Project Demo playlist. We'll be back with another interesting talk for you. Till then, keep listening, keep watching, and keep sharing your love with Ethereum cat herders. Cheers.